If what you want is real, relevant hunting, you are in the right place. With moderator Josh Miller, owner of Triple Point Outdoors, co-host Kevin Cook, owner of the Outdoor Pro Shop, and Brian Keitlinger, athlete and creator of Left in the Field Outdoors. Welcome to the Reinvent the Hunt podcast.
All right. Well, I want to welcome everybody to the Reinvent the Hunt podcast. This is episode 1. I'm Josh Miller from the great state of Ohio. We have two awesome co-hosts on here. Brian's from PA and Kevin from Maryland. Brian, why don't you take it away here a little bit?
Hey, my name is Brian Keitlinger. I'm happy to be here. I live in Northwest Pennsylvania. By day, I'm a 8th grade social studies teacher. By night, I'm a full-time dad to 2 wonderful kids and a full-time husband to a wonderful wife that I've been married to for 27 years. So, this is something that's going to be fun to share a bunch of information. I think it's neat that we're getting Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Ohio. There's a lot of history between the 3 states as well. So I'm super excited to get things rolling.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you.
Kevin?
I'm Kevin Cook. I'm from Pasadena, Maryland. By day, I'm an estimator for a fire protection company. And by night, I'm the owner of Outdoor Pro Shop here in Pasadena, Maryland. Class 3 firearms dealer, sporting goods retailer. I have 2 beautiful daughters as well. Wonderful wife. I've been married to, it'll be 8 years this May. So just happy to be here. Grew up hunting and fishing, and now I was spending this podcast with you guys. It's going to be a great time.
Absolutely. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for being part of this. We're to the point now where we wanted to start our own podcast, have some great guys on it, and just grow. And I think the biggest thing I want to do with this whole thing is be real and relevant hunting. I mean, that's the foundation. And we spun off the tagline "Reinvent the Hunt" from Triple Point, because I feel like with the day and age where technology is just inundating. Quite honestly, I feel like it's almost like a necessary evil, so to speak. I'm sure you guys feel the same way, where you kind of have to be on it, you kind of have to use it, but it's just like inundating on a daily basis. I feel like I could spend 20 hours on the phone. And I'm Josh Miller. I'm the owner of Triple Point Outdoors, and I have a great family. I have a daughter who's in freshman high school, which is like beyond me at this day and age. I don't know how she got that big. And our son is 8, actually 9, just turned 9, and he's grown up before my eyes. And they're all into digital technology and that whole world. But I have a great wife, Emily. She shot a big buck this year. She got a huge double drop time that I didn't get a chance to even see, but she had a heck of a hunt, and that was fun. And I know that around the board here, just connecting with you guys and having you on this podcast, we wanted to start off episode 1 of the Reinvent the Hunt podcast, and really just, I'll probably call it basically RTH from now on, because saying Reinvent the Hunt's hard most of the time. But the RTH podcast is just going to focus on real hunting. We're not always successful. We're not always the best hunter in the woods, but we have a heck of a good time. And everything I do is always an adventure. I don't care where I'm at in the world, or with you guys, with buddies here in Ohio, or going out to dinner somewhere, or going down to Hocking Hills in a cabin. It's always an adventure. And I guess I want to start with you guys to hear, why we hunt. Like, what got you into hunting? Why do you hunt? What propels you in hunting, and what kind of fuels your fire, so to speak, in this outdoor sport?
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in. I'll be 50 this year, and I'm happy to say that I've had a love for the outdoors since I was a kid. I would spend a lot of time with my grandfather. We'd do a lot of fishing. In PA, while I was growing up, you couldn't hunt until you were 12. So, it was, full excitement waiting, till you could go take your hunter safety course and finally get into the woods. And I would honestly say my journey was probably a lot different than a lot of other people my age that began hunting. I never killed a whitetail in Pennsylvania until I was 18. I actually killed a turkey before I even killed a deer, which was kind of unheard of at the time, because turkey populations weren't what they were, back in the day. But the more I spent time with my grandfather, I had some great mentors. My best friend's dad, John Davidson, after my grandfather passed away, he said, "You can come with us anytime you want." And he really took me underneath his wing and, showed me the ropes with archery, would take me to 3D shoots. Anytime I wanted to go out, hunting, invited me to their camp, all kinds of things. And as I got into college, it waned a little bit because I was playing Division II soccer, but I still found time to get out and hunt. And then once I graduated college, I moved to North Carolina for a year and taught North Carolina and started to hunt quite a bit down there. When I moved back to Pennsylvania, my wife, her uncle, would let me come and hunt with those guys. And it really, for me, just took off. When I moved back to Pennsylvania, started to do a lot of archery hunting, focus on archery hunting, dabble with a bunch of stuff early on, like mock scrapes. And, when trail cameras came out, we're talking about this technology stuff. I jumped on that stuff hard right at the very beginning. But, it's just something, it's just a passion that I've always had that I've carried with me. And my wife would say it's not a passion, it's probably an obsession or addiction or a serious
money pit.
a serious illness in some way, shape, or form. But I'll finish up here and pass it on to Kevin. I think for me, one of the key things is being in the outdoors. I find myself most of the time, a lot of time to reflect, a lot of times pulling myself closer to the creator. And I'm at that stage in my hunting career now where if I don't kill something, I'm okay. I'm always learning something new every time I'm out. And Charles Alsheemer had those 5 steps of what a hunter is, and I'm kind of at that top 5th step where I'm more concerned with my kids getting something, trying to single out one particular deer, trying new things, improving my habitat and stuff like that.
That's awesome. All good stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely an obsession. It's a borderline illness, but that's okay though. So that's okay.
Yeah.
So a little bit of backstory. So I got into hunting from my grandfather and my cousin. Oddly enough, my dad never hunted a day in his life. My dad has taught me how to completely build a house, but he has never been hunting. So I grew up around hunting with my grandfather and my cousin, and I still hunt with my cousin to this day. So it's it's just absolute passion. And like I think there's a multitude of reasons of why we all hunt, but the biggest reason for me is just it's an escape. It's a time to escape the rat race. I mean, as you guys know, it's 100 mile an hour all the time, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So just being able to escape, leave the electronics in the truck, getting up in that tree stand and just listening to nature and just taking it all in, not having to worry about anything at that point in time. That's the biggest reason why I hunt.
Absolutely.
And then, like you said, it's not even about, what we kill. I can't tell you how many deer I've let walk. Like it's not about, it's just about escaping. And then my kids are at the age now, they're my older daughter just turned 5 and she's like, "Daddy, when we going hunting?" I'm like, "Oh, it's soon, baby." So next year I think I'm gonna put a ground blind out and start getting her into hunting.
Man, that's
She's
really
all
cool.
fired up.
That's
So
really cool.
it's definitely, now that my kids are getting to the age where they're asking me to go, it's even more exciting to me.
Yes, sir. Man, you guys hit on all those points are great points. And I know for me personally, now I'm the same way, guys. And, I'm 42. So, I was getting up there, but I feel middle age. My wife yells at me, says, "Don't say that," but I think you get to that point in life where you want to hunt as much as you can as a young guy and get out there after work and bust your tail to, try to make it before the sun goes down and hurry up and get on stand. And I remember being that guy. And now I just, like you said, Brian, enjoy the moment. So I grew up in Killbuck, Ohio. The town I grew up in is literally named Killbuck, and we call it Skeeterville. And there's swamps in Killbuck, Ohio from the glaciers that came through. And my family didn't really ever hunt, to be honest with you. Like we did shotgun hunting because yeah, my grandfather was so busy farming, my dad was busy working, no one had time. It was like there weren't many deer at that point in time back in the late 70s, 80s, or just kind of small. And so now that Ohio, obviously has some slobs going on, and we've had some great management in the state to grow bigger deer. I kind of picked it up, with my grandfather. I remember eating cheese sandwiches, sitting in the truck on a cold morning, and my grandfather's gone now. We lost him this past year, and so part of why I do this, guys, I'm sure you feel the same way, is my heart. Like I feel like it's an honor to my generation, my family, to love the sport so much, not to get emotional here, but to literally pour all I've got into this because I believe in it so much and it's in your blood. I think if it's in your blood, it is. And I think it's, probably in almost every human's blood to some degree if you like to eat food. And I think it just spawned for me as a high school kid. I kind of got into archery a little bit and had the biggest run in with the biggest deer of my life. Probably the first couple of times went out sitting on the glacial erratic boulder on the farm in Killbuck. And it was just like an addiction, like you guys said, an obsession, like reading magazines, the high school and library after doing my math, and just how can I do this someday, and what's it going to look like? And but even the broadhead, the Clovis that we produce, it doesn't really mean anything compared to the experience of the hunt and the adventure. I mean, that's what it's about, and doing it with friends. And I can share with you guys, like I don't like doing it solo much anymore because I guess I will say I like doing it solo. You guys might be able to feel me on this. I like the connection to the creator and the environment solo because you might be the only person seeing that snowflake around miles, or seeing that animal do that thing. But then I also prefer going with people now because of the adventure, like getting to go on a moose hunt and filming that moose hunt from behind and like strategizing and figure out what to do, and just an absolute blast to be out there doing that. But then I also remember back being a high school kid, and I don't want to get in trouble here, but the Millersburg police might get me. We actually took a deer to the car wash and we're out there spraying the cavity out as high school kids, like, and these cops are driving by and they're like, oh, look at those Yahoo Killbuck kids, and so it's just been a pretty awesome adventure for myself personally, and to connect with you guys and talk about why we hunt. I think we all at our core have that drive. It's even hard to describe, connection to family and hunting and the outdoors. But I feel like we all have it here,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's interesting. They said my son will be 20 this year. My daughter will be 18 here in April. And so I've been through those cycles where, my son, the first time he went out on a hunt with me, he was 3.5. I took our babysitter's son out on a mentor turkey hunt. And she watched my daughter, because my daughter was only 2.5 at the time. They're 23 months apart. And I said, hey, I'll take your son out mentor hunting if you can watch my daughter. It's a Saturday, She's like, yeah, sure. I mean, I dropped my daughter off at 9. I picked him up. No lie, we got out to a spot. I cut a few calls. We had a bird gobble. I said, we're going to sit here. I told the mentor hunter to go up in front of me about 5-10 yards. And my son sat in my lap. That hunt didn't last 15 minutes. That bird was in our lap within 5 minutes, gobbling its head off. And I can feel my son's heartbeat, just racing at 3.5 years old. And when that shot went off, he never blinked, nothing. He thought it was the coolest thing, and then taking him out for his first hunt. He had success, very early at 7, 8. He killed a really nice buck in Ohio when he was 8 years old. Killed his first buck with a compound at 10. For the longest time, it wasn't even about me. It was getting my kids going. And then once my daughter was able to go, it was juggling. Okay, I got 2 youth hunters. One has to stay home, one has to go. And they were pretty good. They never fought about, who was going, who wasn't. A lot of times there were nights where 3 of us were sitting in a 2-man buddy stand, and I'm sitting there, we're never going to see anything. And, deer walk in, deer get shot. I mean, it's such a great time. And, my daughter this year was the first year that she wasn't a junior hunter. So it was back to me hunting by myself. And my son, when he'd come home from college, he would have his stand. My daughter would be at hers. And it's, unfortunately, the technology was keeping us all, together. What are you guys seeing? What's going on? But I honestly missed the time sitting with my daughter, talking about school, talking about sports, talking about all kinds of things. Because she would sit right beside me and everything. And, this was the first year. It's one of those stages you go through, but it's just knowing that you're passing that on to the next generation, that love and that passion is just you guys will have a blast. And seriously, it's so much fun. I mean, you don't care if you spook deer, you don't care if you see anything. We had so much fun, sometimes not even doing a whole lot of hunting. And it's just those experiences you'll never forget.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting with me because I know like our daughter being in high school, she went through a period of time where she loved target shooting. And I don't think she's gonna love hunting. I don't think she wants to take an animal, and that's that's fine with me as a dad. Our son seems to want to kill everything known to man. That seems like, but it's like he's learning, and he got his button buck this year. He shot a button buck and did a phenomenal job. We had a fun time tracking it. But Kevin, I'm sure you could probably feel that same experience of like, you try to feel out your kids and what they do or don't love it, and because you have so much love for it yourself and you want to pass it on. But then there's times where I have to sit back and say, well, our daughter loves target shooting. She absolutely loves doing that, but doesn't want to take the step into hunting. And I got to respect that. It's for her, that's her thing. And our son just eats it up and loves it. So either way, she got a bow in her hand. She's slinging some arrows, which is awesome.
Absolutely. I'm still trying to feel out my older daughter to see if she's actually going to, which I mean, she says she wants to hunt. I don't know if she fully understands what that entails right now, but she's helped me skin them. She's seen them hanging, she's been a part of the whole process besides shooting them. So I think she'll be all right. Now, my younger daughter, who is about to turn 3 at the end of April, yeah, she's a firecracker. I think she's going to be all into it. I think there's no doubt in my mind she's going to be into it.
Look out, huh?
Oh yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, she's the troublemaker.
So you guys remember, I'm thinking the first stories of like the first deer I got, first animal I hunted actually. And if I could hear those stories from you, I know the first one I had was, I remember a shotgun deer, and I was with my dad, and it's always going to stick in my head because the one time my dad left me in the woods and he tells me this, and I'm sure Dad's done this. He tells me, sit by this tree, big oak. He's like, Josh, sit here, and at dusk, and it gets dark, I'll come back and pick you up. We'll go up to the house. And it's like, we have 6 inches of snow on the ground. It's really cold. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna sit here and wait on Dad, because that's what I was told to do. And I waited on Dad, and it got darker and darker and darker, and it's pitch black, and I'm scared to death. Probably, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, probably 9 at the time. And Dad went up. He was cold. He forgot. He told me he was gonna come get me. And finally, I'm waiting back at the house. I'm like, where'd you go? He's like, well, come on, boy. What do you get back up here? Yep. I told you. And so one of those stories where my first shotgun deer was, it knocked me down. The shotgun did. I got back up, and he made me gut it, and I'm plugging my nose, and as a kid didn't know what to do. So you guys want to share me, what's your first harvest story?
You go, Brian.
Yeah, for me, like I said, people like laugh when I tell them, we had so many deer in the 80s in Pennsylvania. It was nuts.
That's surprising to me.
Yeah. The bucks were random because a lot of spikes, 3 points, 4 points. And my grandfather took me out to my uncle's place. We had some great times. The very first year I sat out, I actually drove home through the night with my buddy's dad. We had a soccer tournament down in Bethesda, Maryland, and we played Sunday afternoon in the finals. And we came back late that night. I remember getting to bed at like 1, and my grandfather pulled me out of bed at 4 to drive to my uncle's place. And early on, first thing in the morning, I had this big half rack 5-point walk by, and I'm trying to get it in the scope. And my grandfather's like, nah, it's a half rack. You ain't shooting that. And he's like, just let it go. And, we talked about that afterwards. And he was like, you want to shoot something? You want to shoot something nice? I'm sitting there like, it's like 1985. I'm like, that's the biggest deer I've ever seen in my life. But I didn't kill deer until I was 18, and my buddy's dad, I went to their hunting camp with them, and I had to get permission from actually my surgeon to actually do this. I had blown out my knee in a soccer game, and I had a torn PCL and some other ligaments and stuff like that. I could walk and everything fine, but he's like, I don't want you walking through the mountains. You can go. You can sit, right behind camp, blah, 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 this other stuff. So, the traditional thing, you get there on Saturday, everyone shoots their guns on Saturday. Sunday, you scout, watch football, eat food, and make sure you have, everything ready to go, pick your spot. And, I told my buddy's dad, I said, I'm going to go sit behind camp because that's what my doctor told me to do. And they're kind of laughing and chuckling. They're like, yeah, you can go sit there. We won't see anything. Blah. So, I wake up in the morning and, it took me a while to walk back to my spot simply because of, the ligaments that were torn in my knee. And I'd cleared up my spot. I sat there, it was first Monday after Thanksgiving is our traditional day. And I'm sitting there and I can hear a doe down in the thicket below me, these thick pine trees just blowing a bad. And I'm sitting there going, I know that's not good, but the wind wasn't blowing down towards her. It was the thermals were going up the hill. And at that point in time, I'm sitting there going, I know she's not smelling me. And it got to the point where I sat there for 45 minutes to an hour and she just kept blowing. Now, I never saw her, but she kept blowing and blowing. And I was like, you know what? If she keeps blowing, I'm going to give it 5 more minutes and I'm going to leave. And I remember sitting there on the ground I borrowed a 243 from my brother-in-law and sitting there with the gun across my lap. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to leave. And I start to get up and I could hear something coming out of the thicket down below. And so, well, that doe's going to finally come up here and, I'll get to see what she was stomping about. Nope. Here comes this big 8-point walking up out of the bottom about 70 yards away. I put the crosshairs on him. He stepped out in the open and I shot and he disappeared out of the scope. And I was like, oh my gosh, first buck I've ever seen while I'm out, hunting that I have a chance to shoot. And I think I missed it. So it probably took me 15 minutes to quit shaking. I get up and where that deer walked up, right where he stopped, it drops off and he had fallen right out of the picture down behind. And he was the biggest buck ever taken at my buddy's camp. This was in 1992. And, it was a mountain deer. I've scored him. He's 106 inches, but he was the biggest buck taken out of that camp since they've ever had it. Now, it would be my buddy's dad's cousin. His daughter this year just shot an absolute slammer and beat that buck. And she's like, I think it beats yours. And she sent me a picture. I'm like, dude, it's got 10-inch brow tines. I said, that deer's going to score like 160. I said, you blew my deer away. Don't even worry about it. So, that was my first experience with deer hunting. But, my other experience, I killed a turkey at age 16 up at that camp, 2 years prior to that. And that was like the first time I'd ever really gone turkey hunting, and it was fall turkey, and we just kind of busted them off the roost, and the rest just happened. So yeah, I was a little bit of a late bloomer, but since then I've kind of caught up.
That's awesome. I can tell you, Kevin, I'll jump in here, but the turkey hunting thing is addicting. I haven't done massive amounts of turkey hunting in my life until recently, probably since college. And like when it's hot, man, is it all rocking awesome,
Yep, it is.
I've never even been turkey hunting, to be honest with you.
You need to
I've
come
never
over.
been because when springtime comes, it's like crabbing season starts and fishing starts, and I just never went.
Yeah.
I'm out on the boat then. I mean, I've been out on the boat crabbing when it's snowing out.
So yeah, that's cool.
Nah, I'm not really.
You're missing out. It's a total different.
I need to go.
We need to do a trade-off. A little bit of turkey hunting for crab.
Yeah, let's go.
There you go.
But my first ever deer harvest was, I must have got my hunter safety card when I was, I think, like 8. Like I was young. I was real young. It was my parents' neighbor who I just bugged him to go hunting, and he was like, all right. So he took me hunting. He took me and my brother hunting. We were sitting in a ground blind. I was using an old bolt action 20 gauge, and it was just a little yearling that walked out. I think it was like 60 yards, and as soon as I shot, I think he was more pumped than I was, to be honest. He was just all fired up. Yeah, effing got him. He was just like, this doe must have been 60 pounds, but it was just awesome. I was hooked from there. It just hasn't stopped. I think the intensity to hunt just grows every year. It just gets, I wouldn't say worse because I like it, but
absolutely. Well, it's like all those hunts too. Like you can go back, and I categorize it as like a Rolodex file. You build Rolodexes in your mind, and you can flip through a Rolodex and pick out a hunt, and you can really literally relive. Brian knows exactly what I'm talking about. Kevin too. I can see your head shaking. You can have the sounds, the smell, the temperature, the morning, the mist, the fog, all of it comes brushing back to you. And so I love that about every experience I've ever had across the world now. Just everything, I can go back and relive those, and those memories are going to stick with you for life. So I want to thank you guys for sharing those with me, and the viewers out there and listeners. I suppose the biggest thing we need to do is talk about where we're going to go with this podcast now at this point. And we have some really awesome episodes coming up. So number one, it's our first episode today. E1, I call it, basically why we hunt and where we're going to go with it. But we have some really neat episodes coming up from like the Creek Kings here in Columbus, Ohio. Do some suburb type hunting. They got really big. We have some food plot seed companies coming up, killer food plots, Spy Point game cameras coming on, Warbucks deer drone recovery. So we can talk about some of the pros and cons of using drones and some of the new technologies out there today to aid the hunter. And is that right or wrong? We'll talk about that in the podcast coming up and what people feel. We'll talk crossbows, vertical bows, and trad bows. Oh my, I call it. We're going to talk about the nitty gritty of what people love to hunt with and why, and what they don't love to hunt with and why. And so I think if you guys want to tune in, like and subscribe to the Reinvent the Hunt podcast. And I just want to tell you guys, thank you for coming on here. I really appreciate and respect both of you, and especially your knowledge and vast experiences in hunting. I think as we move forward, it's going to be a great podcast to take a part in and listen to.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a great time. We're gonna have some great people on here, and like you said, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty. Like there's I don't know how to word it. There's a huge as a hunting community, I think we just argue too much.
Yeah.
Sometimes, what I mean? Especially
absolutely.
at the end of the day, hunt with what you want to hunt with. But there are you know what I mean. You know how people argue about the crossbows, the vertical bows, the compound bows, and it's just there's way too much. We need to come together as a hunting community and stop fighting each other.
We do, absolutely, Kevin.
Especially just get out in the woods. That's all. That's what it's about, man. Just get out in the woods.
Yeah, find a buddy and get out of the woods. And
right.
For me, it's like going with them, experiencing something different. Maybe I don't hunt with that, or maybe I don't hunt that animal, or maybe I don't even do that. Like you talk about crabbing. My first experience at cod fishing by hand was in Newfoundland this past September. It was flipping awesome. This guy took us out in a boat. It was like an old boat, had one motor, and if we were stuck, it was going to be a real problem. And went out and literally threw lines down, and we're dragging out these cod. That was just the coolest thing in the world. I've never done it before, so I want to challenge everybody out there. I think from all of us, I can say this. Challenge those gaps and try to make connections across some bridges and let's grow as a community and not rip each other apart, because that's ultimately what we're about is, eating healthy meat, eating awesome table fare, growing relationships, having partnerships, and listening to those stories around the campfire that grow us. And as we grow old together, it's going to kindle that fire within you, I think.
Right.
Yeah. I did an article a few years back about, how hunters are our own worst enemy because we're not united, but yet everyone who's anti-hunting, they speak the same language, have the same backers, have the same message, and they're united. And there's way more of them than there are of us. And again, the numbers are staggering at what goes into the Humane Society and PETA and all this other stuff. And and it's easier for people to say or find something negative about someone's harvester than just simply saying, congratulations, way to go. And absolutely. that blows my mind, how that is or why that is. And you can blame some of that on social media, TV shows, all this other stuff. I'm sorry, but there's not a 140 in every block of woods here in PA. And we're so densely populated with hunters. I've let a gazillion bucks walk, and I've only ever seen a few make it through. I mean, just this season alone, I had 15 mature bucks on trail camera. After the season was over, all but 2 of them were killed. Wow. And I know they were killed because I talked to the people. I saw pictures. We shared stuff like that, and I'm happy for those people. I mean, it's hey, you paid your you pay your license, you hunt the way you want to do it. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
We have to be more united, and do a better job backing each other up instead of tearing each other down. And Kevin, you hit the nail on the head with that one, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, like I'll be the first one to say I don't personally I don't use a crossbow. I just like the challenge of a compound bow, and I next year I want to try a recurve as well. But I'm not going to sit here and bash anybody that hunts with a crossbow. You know, some people can't draw back a compound bow anyways. You know, some people
Yep.
I've known plenty of people that had shoulder surgeries. They can't draw a bow back anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
So just get out in the woods and hunt and stop
Right.
trashing everybody. Like
Absolutely.
you read through these posts on social media, and it's just guys just bashing each other all day long about what people harvest. I'm like, come on, man,
Yep.
we got to do better.
Yeah. Well, then there's also a difference. I think you guys, there's a respectful difference. I think you probably have noticed it between a good ribbing, which I love. You know, people give me trash
Yep.
about my Worcester biscuit all day long. I love my biscuit, boys. That's just the way it is, you know. And people rib me about the crossbow use and whatever I'm using it in. And they'll say, Miller, you know, use a vertical bow. I'm like, well, I've killed 15 dozen animals with vertical bow. It's cool, you know. I think there's a difference between ribbing and absolute assault, and you can kind of read it in people's
100% agree.
And there's you know, keyboard warriors, and I've never known a person yet that you talk with in a virtual setting, and I sit down with them and have a, you know, Diet Coke or whatever, burger and fries, whatever having, face to face. That person always changes 100% of the time.
Right.
It's more respectful. It's more relational, and I think that's what we can do here, or what I want to do. I think you guys on this podcast is reach out and can do more connecting than bashing. You know?
Yeah, we all relate more than we think we do. You know what I mean? Like when it boils down to it, we all have a lot more in common than what meets the eye. So
absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I want to thank both of you for coming on tonight. That about does it for our time in this podcast episode. We're going to try to keep it real relevant, short for you. That way you can listen to it if you want to work on the way home. That way you know, can dedicate more time to your family. But we're going to get these topics to you quick and let you hear them on the Reinvent the Hunt podcast. So for everybody, like and subscribe. Kevin, Brian, any last words today?
Nope. Just want people to join in as we do the episodes and just have a good time.
absolutely, that's what it's all about. You know, join in and have a great time.
All right, guys. Look forward to more guests coming on real soon, as even next podcast. And have a good night. Take care.